What's up guys, Coach Az back again with another video, and today I'm going to answer a question that I don't think actually gets asked too often, but that a lot of people have in their minds, and that is, should I leave my club for another club? Should I quit where I'm training and go train somewhere else? And this is obviously something that people struggle with because people leave and change clubs all the time. I've been teaching for over 10 years now, and in those 10 years, a lot of people have come, a lot of people have left. A lot of people have left, and I've heard through the grapevine that they're training somewhere else. And a lot of people have come to me and said, you know, I was training here, but now I'm training with you guys. First thing to understand is this is completely normal. So it's not unusual. It's very rarely a true reflection on a club. And the way I'm going to tell it is I'm going to tell you a completely unrelated story, but I think it explains it perfectly. So I had an ex-girlfriend and we were together for quite a long time, and then we broke up. And now I refer to her as Satan, playfully to my friends, and I have no want or need to be in a relationship with her or even have a friendship with her. We're not even on talking terms. As far as I'm concerned, she's someone that I want nothing to do with. Now, does that make her a bad person? Does that make her an awful girlfriend? Well, some might say yes, but the reality of it is she's now married with 2 kids. Do you see what I mean? What I'm saying is it's nothing to do with what she's like, as in that she's a bad person or I'm a bad person. It's that you're different. You're looking for different things. You're after different things. And it can be exactly the same with martial arts schools. Perhaps you go to a club and you feel the sparring's a little too rough or the crowd is a little bit too rough. That's not a bad thing for some people. If you're trying to become a professional fighter, often you need that environment. You need that group of tough, gritty people. You need coaches that are unsympathetic, that are a bit rough around the edges. Certain people need to be hardened by that. On the other hand of it, if you're just looking to get in shape and learn a new skill, then you're probably going to look for a club that's a bit more family orientated, that hasn't got such a heavy focus on sparring, or if they do a lot of sparring, it's in a lot more of a controlled and light environment. It's not a case of good or bad, at least I don't think it is. I think it's a very personal decision. So if you're having this thing in your head where you think that you want to leave, here's a couple of things just for you to consider. 1, the grass is not often greener on the other side. You might be leaving because you think you're going to get better training somewhere else. You think that they've got better resources or facilities. You think that you're going to get more personal attention. Okay, these are the 3 things that I've kind of noticed from people that generally is what they feel is lacking. So let's go through them. 1, you think you're going to get better training. That can be very true. The coach could be more experienced. The coach could have a teaching methodology that, again, is not necessarily better, but is more in line with the way that you like to learn. You see what I mean? Maybe they prefer drilling over just letting you flow. Maybe they prefer a more hands-on approach in terms of constantly giving you feedback. And maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't. For example, and I'll use myself as an example, not to make it about me, but to give you something to work off of. I like to let people try to swim. So, for example, in a sparring session, I'm pretty hands-off in the sense that I like to let people learn by doing. I put them in, I turn the rounds on, and I'm there and I'm observing, and I will give nuggets. I will give bits of information to one person, to another. I might stop the whole group and discuss something as a whole. But for the most part, I'm allowing people to experience things for themselves. Learn how to land a jab by throwing a jab. Learn how to defend a jab by defending a jab. And if I see that they're stuck, that they're hitting a roadblock where their knowledge isn't there, then that's where I intervene. I know coaches who are just on it. From the moment the round goes to the moment the round ends, it's advice, 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 advice. And again, no judgment on it. It's just that's how their methodology is. And for a lot of people, they need that constant input to feel like they're progressing, and that's the way they do it. The second thing, and this is a really, really important one, you feel like you're going to have better resources and facilities. A lot of martial arts schools are taught out of halls. I'm a good example of that. A lot of martial art halls are taught out of very rinky-dink operations, smelly, moist, damp buildings. A lot of martial arts centers, it's just, if you're lucky, mats, and if you're not so lucky, but still the same, hard floor. The real reality of it is, in my opinion anyway, is it has nothing to do with it. I have seen amazing fighters train in squash courts. I have seen amazing fighters get really good training in a field. At the end of the day, what you really need to get good at a martial art is the space and the partners in order to practice it. It's not about the nice hanging punch bags. It's not about all the weird strength and conditioning equipment. Obviously, all of this stuff plays a small factor, but the real reality of it is do you have space to operate? And do you have training partners to work with? And that's really what you should focus on. Don't be drawn in by the glitz and glamour of a beautiful center. That's like the cherry on the cake. If everything else is perfect and then you also get a pretty place to go and train, great. If everything is there but it's an ugly little hall, trust me, that's what you're after, and that's what really matters in terms of it. Get it out of your head that the aesthetics of what you're doing is important. It's combat. It's nothing to do with how pretty the hall is or how Instagrammable your training looks. Okay? The final one, and this is probably the most important one, is that you feel that you're going to get more attention. So a lot of people come to me and they go, I was training at this gym, it's a big gym, and I just didn't feel like I was getting much, time with the coach or much attention into my own training. And whilst I completely understand where you're coming from, you also need to understand that it's just not the way it very often works. If it's a very small, very niche club, then this is how it works. If you're a tight-knit, small team, then definitely. If there's a very large coaching staff, then possibly. But the vast majority of the time, the reality of it is that a coach is going to be spread out over, depending on the size of a club, from 50 to 300 students. And in a class, they're probably going to vary between the size of 10 people and 30 people and anything in between. So first of all, to expect so much one-on-one time when you're paying for, let's say, a monthly class, a monthly membership, it's not really realistic. You want to pay for one-on-ones? That's fine. Then you're paying the premium to get that one-on-one time with that coach. But again, what you feel is important is to have this one-on-one time with coach. It's not as important as you think it is. We are only guiding mechanisms, and coaches, if you're listening to this, don't put it on yourself to hold responsibility for this person. You are a guiding mechanism. You are the wind. You're blowing them in the right direction, but it's for them to take the steps. It's for them to train. And if you're the student, what it really comes down to is what you're willing to put into it. Your coach is there to support you in your training, okay? It's your hours on the mat. It's you doing the exercises. It's you putting the time in, and the coach should be there as a support mechanism. Don't expect to get kind of monopoly over their time. Don't expect them to constantly come over to you, and especially if it's just purely to reassure you that you're doing the right thing, because often you are doing the wrong thing. But that's part of the learning process. Again, it's adjustments. It's telling you one thing and letting you adjust it and letting that kind of bake in before adding to it. If I just swamp you and constantly tell you that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, which is what would happen if you just wanted me to constantly tell you what you're not doing right, A, it's disheartening for you, and B, it's not practical for you to make that much of a shift and that much of a change in a short period of time. And that's genuinely what it seems to always come down to, is people expect results a lot quicker than they get them. And they think that the issue with it is not that they are just progressing at a normal rate or maybe even a slower rate than others, but that it must be that the coaching's not good, or I need better training facilities, or I need more time. Okay? If you are thinking about it, and this is just to cover both sides of the argument, here's a few things to ask yourself, and these are what I think you should genuinely focus on. And the first one, this is number one's the most important. Are you comfortable there? Okay, what I mean by that is when you walk into the gym, the hall, the class, whatever it is, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like you're in a place where you are welcome and where you want to be and where people want you to be? Okay, if you've got that, you're more than halfway there. That's a big thing to find in a martial art club and in a school, is a place where you walk in and you feel comfortable. Don't confuse it with the discomfort of being in training, because training should be uncomfortable. You should be aching, it should be hurting, you should feel a bit awkward and nervous in sparring and in rounds and in rolling and all the rest of it. But what I mean is that, you know, social dynamic wise, you can talk to your coach. You feel you can talk to your training partners on a level. You feel like there's a certain social dynamic that is present. If you have that, trust me, that's the biggest and hardest thing to find. Beyond that, do you leave a class feeling like you got something from it? Now, not that you've revolutionized anything, but every time you walk out of that room, do you feel like you got something? And something might just be a sweat. You might just have walked in dry and you walk out, your t-shirt's wet. And that means you got something. Maybe you learned one new thing. Maybe you got reminded of something that you learned way back when. Maybe it's just a case of you left feeling better than when you walked in at the start of the session. And again, if you found a place that provides you that service, that's a huge deal. The final thing is just make sure that you're really clear on what your goal is with your martial arts training. If you're trying to be a pro fighter, make sure you're in a gym that has other pro fighters and that is geared towards providing that. And don't go to a family martial arts school. For example, mine is very much a family-based school. Everyone's welcome. We all get along. It doesn't mean we don't train properly. It doesn't mean it's not proper technique. But the training and the sessions and the classes are geared in a way to support a wider spectrum of students. And I wouldn't, if someone walked in and I could tell that they're just looking to get in the UFC, for example, I would guide them to another school. And it's not that I don't want them to train with me. It's not that I don't want their revenue or I don't want them to come to my gym. It's that I want to give them the best service possible. And the best service I can give someone like that is to guide them to the right teacher to provide them with what they need. Okay? So just be honest with yourself and try and have an open discussion. As a teacher who's had people leave, I can say it doesn't, in my opinion anyway, it doesn't personally affect me. I don't sit here crying about it. I don't lose any sleep about it. If I saw that person in the street the next day, I would be the first person to wave at them, say hi and ask how they're doing, because it's not personal. I understand that my school is not for everyone and someone else's school is not for them. It's just the way it goes. So the majority of teachers are going to be the same. They're not going to mind that you want to go train somewhere else or you want to leave. Sure, some people will. Some people will get upset about it. But truly and honestly, that's not your problem. That's for them to work on and them to develop. Guys, I feel like I've gone on forever on this one. I hope that's helpful to you. One thing I will just say to finish it off on is don't make any rash decisions. Don't rush to leave. Don't rush to sign up somewhere else and pay a new joining fee and get a new kit and all the rest of it. Take your time. Let things play out. If something bad happened and you feel a bit awkward, give it time. Martial arts and clubs, they're like families, and sometimes families fight and sometimes families fall out and sometimes families can't stand each other, but give it time. It often just comes back round and you'll find that what you felt was like a really big deal at that moment. Maybe you got hit in sparring too hard. In the grand scheme of things, you'll look back on it and go, God, that was just a silly little moment. But you could build it and turn it into something massive if you really wanted to. Guys, I hope it's helpful. If you have a question for me, leave it in the comments below. If you liked the video, please hit that like button. It helps me know that I'm providing good content to you guys. Please subscribe to the channel so that we can get to more of you, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.